The Angry Chicken is a production of amove.tv. Check out Amove TV for more podcasts covering Blizzard games. And for more of Jocelyn's gaming podcasts, visit jossplays.com. The Angry Chicken is brought to you by our legendary patrons over at patreon.com/TAC.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Legendary!
You face Jaraxxus. You smell like a leopard gnome. I knew it. So hot.
A podcast about Hearthstone and Battlegrounds. This is The Angry Chicken!
Greetings! Welcome back, everyone. This is TAC, the first TAC of 2021, as a matter of fact. Hope everyone's having a happy new year. And if you're like me, attempting to avoid the insane news cycle that is currently happening. That's what we're here to do. Escapism. Let's get it on. Yeah. Boy, what a day. Hi, Joss. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I am here. The holidays are over. I hope that everyone had a good break. And we are back at it in many, many forms of the phrase.
2020 isn't done with us yet, it seems.
Yeah.
To put it mildly. But yes, I could really use a healthy dose of talking to my friend about complete nonsense in this form, my friend Jocelyn, and the nonsense being Hearthstone.
I thought you were going to go straight to Evolve Shaman, the nonsense being Evolve Shaman.
I mean, I like playing Shaman, so yeah.
I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised. And we're going to get into Evolve Shaman later on in the show. But honestly, I'm surprised that there hasn't been the same level of Garrett rage to this winter's Evolve Shaman as there was to last winter's Evolve Shaman.
Last winter's Evolve Shaman literally ruined an entire year of esports by making the finals entirely about a ridiculous deck that was only made possible because of what was supposed to be a fun shake-up to the meta via an in-game event. This one mercifully came after esports, and I have Battlegrounds that I can go play when Standard is annoying me, and Standard is annoying me. So
fair enough.
there we have. It turns out, folks, I don't know if you know this, but if you don't like the mode you're currently playing, you can go to other modes. You can even go to other games.
Whoa! No way!
Yeah.
No, that is blasphemy. Get out.
It turns out there's nothing forcing you to continue playing something that's not bringing you joy. So, anyways, that's what we got a good show. We're going to talk about the rewards track being changed with the next expansion. We're going to talk about if we think Evolve Shaman needs a nerf. You probably already have a good vibe on where we stand. In that regards, we're going to talk.
Where you stand.
If anyone's listened to you talk for more than 5 minutes, I think they know where you stand. And then we're also going to talk about updates to hero balance in Battlegrounds. But before we do all of that, we want to thank those of you who are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. Because we just went through the holidays, and that's usually when a lot of people take a break. That's when a lot of people don't become new patrons. And so if you're still hanging around supporting us, we really appreciate it. So thank you so much, because you're the reason we get to put as much time into producing the show as we do. So go check it out, patreon.com/TAC. Get access to our Discord and some other fine perks over there. But let's get right into it, though, Joss, because there's been a lot of interesting things, a lot of interesting Hearthstone bombs being dropped by Ixar on Reddit, and so let's get right into this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
We're gonna have 100 reward levels next expansion. Is the big fat headline on this? This was basically what happened was responding to a Reddit post that was titled, quote, "The post level 50 experience is exactly what we were hoping the rewards track would feel like. Hearthstone game designer Ixar responded saying that, and this is a direct quote, "Our latest reward track for the next expansion has 100 levels, the same amount of required XP, and the same amount of total rewards. Sounds like we're on the same page." And then ended it with, I know. As we get closer to completion and the next expansion, we'll share more details.
I love that Garrett can like see me getting ready to like.
Part of it too is as a guide for the audio listeners. I want them to know that you just cocked an eyebrow so hard, I think you removed some drywall from your ceiling.
Oh man. Okay, so this statement is just infuriating because
kicking off 2021. It turns out calendars are entirely arbitrary and nothing has changed, including in Hearthstone.
I honestly though, I feel like I'm gonna be a little bit feisty today. I'm gonna try not to be, but I feel like this Reddit post, the post 50 level experience, I think the reason why the original poster, or at least what I'm going to assume the original poster's feelings, or why people like this, because I've seen this sentiment shared across many different players saying like, oh, hey, I got to the end of the pass and then now I'm in the post 50 grind. And this actually feels really good. Like I'm getting rewarded pretty often. It's consistent. And that's because post 50, the rewards are the same and the XP requirement is the same. And so you're getting rewarded at a consistent pace instead of things being front loaded, which is infuriatingly frustrating as a player. When you're just like, oh, hey, in week 1, I get a bajillion things, but then by week 10, I get 1 if I'm lucky. Like that feels really bad. So the post 50 leveling experience feels very good. And Ixar's response to this doesn't really give me any sort of, I guess, faith in the fact that he got that message. Like this says, oh yeah, we've got 100 levels and the same amount of XP. Okay, yeah, that's great. But is that XP, I'm assuming when he says the same amount of required XP, he's talking about this battle pass versus the next battle pass. So does that mean that that amount of required XP is going to be equally distributed across 100 levels? Because then, yes, he got the point. But if you're still going to make level 1 100 XP, level 2 200 XP, level 3 300 XP, you missed the point. That's all I had to say about that.
Yes, I find it so weird that no one from the Hearthstone team has like commented anything directly about comments saying that ramp up is part of what feels bad about the system. Like none of them have addressed it. It feels like it's Harry Potter and that comment is Voldemort and they dare not speak its name. A little bit. At the same time, whatever the case is, because I don't know, part of me thinks the aversion to talking about that is because they are never going to change it. The ramp up is always going to be part of this, and I get that a lot of other Blizzard games, let alone other games, work like this. Maybe not battle passes. Some do, some don't. Whatever. But, you know, leveling up in World of Warcraft, for example, it takes more levels to go from 51 to 52 than it did from 50 to 51. Or it takes more XP.
But you also earn more XP. When you're completing quests and stuff at level 50, you get a different amount of XP than when you're completing quests at 51, which is why the ramp up in, say, WoW leveling doesn't feel as bad as this does. And I think if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that the main selling point of the battle pass is the XP boost, is the fact that you can move through the system faster if you pay. And they're not 100% sure if they should or if they could or, you know, whatever, like divorce those two concepts of like making it so that, you know, to get that better feeling, to get that smoother transition into those later levels. They don't know how to take that out of the battle pass and make it so the battle pass still has enough value that people are going to pay for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm trying to draw from other places where that is the case, and I was going to bring it home with it doesn't feel good in Hearthstone, but I do think this will feel better. It will alleviate some of the sense of dear God, I think I got one thing this week. Instead, you'll get 2. If there's still a ramp up, but there's more levels, you're going to be hitting levels more regularly, which is part of what feels bad about this. But this post itself draws very direct attention to the fact, it like calls out one of the things that feels really good is getting something every day. And what Ixar says here doesn't lead to that.
Well, and you and I think are interpreting what Ixar is saying kind of differently as well.
I am
because not. Oh, okay.
I am interpreting it exactly the same way as you are.
Okay, because from the way that you just like, I'm thinking there's going to be 0 to 100 and then that's it. Like nothing past level 100.
I wasn't even getting into that, but that's interesting that you think that.
Okay. Well, just because like, just from your,
I'm just talking about 1 to 50 right now.
Yeah.
If that becomes 1 to 100, you unlock more things along the way. It's less at a time, but there's more bite-sized pieces to unlock. So like from like 40 to 41, like say you did that in 1 week, maybe you'll do 40 to 41 to 42 in a week, but you still got the same reward. But instead of that feels bad of like, well, I'm going to get 300 gold next, but I'm not going to get it for a week and I want to go do an arena run. Well, cool. Well, they just broke that up into 150 and 150. So in the middle of the week, you can do that arena run instead of having to wait a whole week. That's what I'm commenting on, is in that way, this will alleviate the feels bad to a certain degree.
Right. And I guess the way that I read it and interpreted it was like right now we have 50 levels in the battle pass and then extra levels after that. And the way that I read it is the next reward thing will have 100 levels and that's it. But maybe I'm interpreting
there's
it
no way
incorrectly.
we would
burn
down the Reddit. We would burn down the Reddit if that was the case.
Because, and that's something that I've like, I don't really understand like why we talk about it in two different ways, like why there is an after, why it isn't better created, like why there's this 50 level reward track and then just like bonus stuff or something. Like I don't know, it's a very odd interpretation of a battle pass, I think. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just find it weird that there's like this reward system, but there's like two different sections of it.
It is
different
weird.
Conversations.
It's front loaded and back loaded, like simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like your first week,
it's weird.
Your first week feels awesome. Oh, I'm getting so much stuff. And then it's a desert for months until you hit 50. And then it's like, oh, cool. Daily progression. Like what a lot of the players have been missing. It is strange, but it is also clearly by design. I think
I just think like his chat room right now is saying that I'm interpreting it weirdly, which is fine, but like
they're focusing just on no bonus levels past 100, which I agree. I think that was a weird read.
Well, and okay, so the reason, maybe I need to explain my logic and thinking a little bit more or something, but I find it odd that only part of our reward system is called the reward track. I guess that's where I get tripped up, is I'm like, well, are you talking about all the rewards we're going to get for an expansion, or are you talking about your little paid for pass? Like, because the track to me is the whole entire thing, is everything I can earn. And then the tavern pass is the restricted thing. They're screwing with their own language, and it's really confusing me.
Well, I don't know. It's Hearthstone, Jocelyn. You don't expect the card text on the card to actually tell you what the card does. You have to play it and figure it out. It's just on brand with the game.
I guess that is true. So, anyways, I can see what you're saying, that if we are essentially splitting each of the 50 levels that we have right now in the Tavern Pass portion of our rewards, if we're splitting that into 100, then yay. I read this as they're taking everything that we currently get, because even the bonus has a cap. Like if the bonus went on forever, then again, I would understand this a little bit easier, I guess, at first read, at first glance. And I totally forgot what I was going to say. Anyways, like I thought they were saying like, here's our whole system and we're going to take all of the XP that you require to get through the whole system and we're going to smoosh all the XP and the rewards into 100 levels. Ta-da! But I think now, upon talking it through with you, I think I am in your camp that they're talking about splitting those 50 in half, which again still doesn't solve the problem, still doesn't understand what it is that players like about the post 50 experience. And the post 50 experience is consistency. And you're not going to get consistency by just splitting things in half.
Yeah, I do think it's important to like recognize that that's your opinion. And I share that opinion. Like some people may not mind the fact that it ramps up. I am not one of those people. So this helps, but it's far from what I was hoping the rewards track would become. So, yeah, I've kind of, I don't know. I keep going back and forth on it. It's not as bad as I thought, to where like they're like, I don't know. I had a week over the holiday where I was like, I just don't care. I'm like getting so little from it. I don't feel any desire to continue to push it. Which I don't think is good design. But again, it's me. This is my opinion. This is my feelings on it. Yours may differ, but yeah, whatever the case is, I do look at this and say, well, however this shakes out, it's an improvement, unless they get rid of bonus levels entirely. But I would think that would be a complete like horrendous move that it's not even on the table as a possibility. But that's my read on the situation. So, anyways, at least they're still thinking about it.
I mean, yeah, and I guess that is kind of another maybe conversation, because I've seen other posts from Ixar on Twitter this week that have basically been saying like, oh, we just thought, insert system name here was better rolled out than, iterated on internally and getting more polished. And it's definitely a swing in Hearthstone design mentality. I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing. I think you and I were both on the same page of like, try stuff, do stuff. But like the things they try and do, I would still like to be a little bit more polished. And this seems, especially as they are iterating so wildly on it and changing it in so many ways from the launch of it. Like we're not even through the first reward track yet. Like we're still in it, and it's been changed multiple times now. They're changing it again for the next implementation. I'm just losing a little bit of faith in them and their ability to understand what it is that we want out of our game.
Well, and like, I think it's
all over the place.
It's a cinderbox too, because of what it is. Like it is the economy of Hearthstone.
Yeah.
And so that being experimental just doesn't feel good. It's one thing, like we've kind of been in this kind of new way of thinking for the team, I think, since Battlegrounds, because they were like, it's in beta. It still is technically. But it's still insane, because Battlegrounds feels like the most polished thing of all of the new things we got, and that was over a year ago now. Mm-hmm. Like Duels didn't feel polished and still doesn't, in my opinion, and the rewards track as well just felt half-baked. But at the same time, like you don't see... people, everyone has a different opinion. So I'm certain there are people with criticisms of Duels, for example, but it's not to the level of anything we saw for the rewards track. And again, that's because of what it is and what it represents within Hearthstone. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, where a lot of that is coming from, and why there's such a focus on the rewards track. So, I'm still chalking this up to a win, because I think this is going to be better than what we have now. And I honestly thought they were just kind of done. I thought they were like, here you go, take your gold here. And we added a few things to it, and we're just going to leave it at that. So I'm also glad that they're still thinking about it.
It's still committed to changing it until it kind of checks the boxes for most people. I mean, I think you're right that there's a lot of feelings and opinions about this rewards track, and that it's going to be really hard to get it right. And I don't think that you're ever going to please everybody. So I'm glad they're still making changes. I hope they hit on something that kind of makes most people feel like they're having a good time and having a reason to engage with the system. Because I think that can be kind of what's missing the most, is like when you get players like Garrett and I that are kind of just like, well, I don't really feel like I want to engage with this. I don't feel like I want to grind out. Like that next level feels so far away, or feels like not rewarding enough for me to really push for, then like that's a problem. Like there's some sort of disconnect, and whether that's because we've talked about a lot of different things when it comes to this reward track. We've talked about rewarding styles of play and modes of play in more equally, so that if you are someone who doesn't play ranked standard, you're still progressing the reward track the same way as if you are a ranked standard player. I think there's a lot of things that can change and be tweaked and make it feel like people want to grind this out. But right now, what I'm hearing from the vast majority of players that I engage with is like, it didn't make me want to play Hearthstone anymore. Like, you know, it's not pulling me into the game. I'm not seeing the system and being like, yeah, that's the thing I want. I need 3 more levels to get there, which is what every other battle pass makes me feel in every other game that has one. Is like, oh yeah, I just have to get to rank this and then I get that cool thing. And I think that there's probably a whole other conversation to be had around this about how they're not leveraging cosmetics as well as they probably could or should.
You're gonna draw me into something that I think will snowball, but I'm going to risk it anyway and try and keep this short. But it's funny you say that, because this is the most cosmetics we've ever seen by like an avalanche size increase. I think at the end of it seems to me that there is a challenge with how many pieces of Hearthstone we can even customize, and I don't think I have an understanding of that challenge, and I wouldn't want to delude myself into thinking otherwise.
Well, that's the thing, right? We don't know the limitations of the client. We don't know like what they would be able to do that would be things that just we could see, or what we and our opponents could see. You know, like there's probably a lot of stuff there, and the last thing we want to do is break the client. Like it seems to be very fragile. Yeah. And so the last thing we want to do is overload it with like frivolous stuff. And I totally get that. Sometimes even just animations on new cards break the client. So like, I understand that we are not necessarily dealing with something that is as moddable, for lack of a better term, as other games are. But I do think that like, yes, we have more options than ever before. You're 100% right. But I think that there's a lot of other things that they could and should do if it's possible within the confines of the client, because there's so many extra things that you could do that aren't hero portraits that they just haven't. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, yeah. And right now I'm not feeling the crazy drive to grind it for sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. But we're also like, I don't know. I think to project, I think you and I are kindred spirits somewhat. That the holiday break hits, and it's like, all right, let's play anything else but what I cover for a living.
Which is actually funny. I was like, all right, time to play some Hearthstone, and then got absolutely destroyed on ladder, and I was like, ugh. The aggression, though. Aggression.
I curled up with Alts and WoW and Miles Morales. It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. But yeah, anyways, so that's really the big news. Like, had Ixar not made this post, we were going into this like, I don't know, well, just bullshit about Battlegrounds and Evolve Shaman, because it's the beginning of the new year. It's a holiday break for everyone, including Blizzard. There wasn't really much, but actually Ixar's posts have been really an interesting look at what's coming down the road for Hearthstone. So that's really it as far as news is concerned this week. And so before we go and have a chat about Evolve Shaman, let's take a break and thank this week's sponsor.
I got the best deals anywhere.
So, hey, Joss, you know, it's a new year. You know, you might be picking up some new habits. I'm going back to school, which, you know, already happened, but it's another semester is rapidly approaching at a pace which concerns me. Which means I have lectures now I have to attend at night, which is just one more reason that I can now recommend, or can continue to recommend, my Raycon wireless earbuds, because it means I can study from the comfort of my couch in great audio quality with no wires for my chihuahuas to yank.
Thrall also does that. He has a thing for my headphone cords, so it's really nice when I can just sit on the couch or be doing really anything in my house without an extra cord for him to bite.
Yes. Yes, or just the excited lap jumping up on, and then just everything gets ripped off your head. That doesn't happen anymore ever since I got my Raycons. So I'm a big fan. So you should go check them out. Maybe you at home, you're taking up some new habits because, whether you're following along to directions in the kitchen, maybe you're binging an audiobook. I recommend Gideon the Ninth. That's amazing. I finally finished it. It's a really good book. Or maybe you're powering through a new workout. A pair of Raycons can make any activity easier, and it's going to make it a better time. Also, they started half the price of other premium audio brands, and they perform wherever you take them with up to 6 hours of playtime. They also have water and sweat resistant construction, which I put to test in the swamp that I live in, known as Florida.
I thought you were going to say when working out, and I was like, Garrett.
I go running. I run quite, not right now because the sun disappears at like 2 p.m. But yeah, and it's nasty and hot and sweaty and ooh. But mine, they look brand new. They look like the day I got them, and these are more than a year old now. So big fan. So go check them out. Also, Raycon is offering 15% off all their products for Angry Chicken listeners. And here's what you've got to do to get it. Go to buyraycon.com/TAC. That's it. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order, so you can grab a pair and a spare. Maybe give one to somebody you like, or maybe someone you don't like, because they'll start to like you. Go check it out. That's 15% off at buyraycon.com/TAC. Again, it's buyraycon.com/TAC. We thank them for their support. We thank you for supporting the brands that support us here at The Angry Chicken. And now let's talk some Evolve Shaman. So it's where most of the constructed conversation is right now, Joss. Wherever I go, it's how Hearthstone is healing. Because the Reddit is talking about overpowered decks instead of underpowered rewards.
It's so true. And there was a post on Reddit today that was a clip from a streamer with the most absolutely ridiculous high rolly Evolve Shaman win. And the creator in question even said way down low in the comments that basically they made the decision that they made because it would make better content. It was not actually it was Liquid Ox. Yeah. So they made the decision that they made in order to get the better content, because it was very much like a halfway through the turn, changed their line of play and went, hey, if I actually just go for this crazy high roll, it would make a great video. And lo and behold, it made a great video that a lot of players are pointing to as the problem with Evolve Shaman, which is the crazy high rolls. And I don't necessarily think the crazy high rolls are the core problem in this deck. I think there's a lot of other pieces to this puzzle that deserve talking about, as opposed to just when they high roll. Because realistically, guys, we play Hearthstone. There is RNG. There are going to be ridiculous high rolls. Like, I played a priest the other day that got like freaking Caligos off of the 4/9 that taunt guy that makes a dragon, and then got like a 0 mana mind control. Like, things happen, okay? It's Hearthstone. So I think that, like, if you're going to complain about the high roll, you're probably playing the wrong game. That being said, I think that there are some issues with Evolve Shaman, and like, first and foremost, from, again, the stats we have, because Blizzard doesn't tell us anything, but the stats that we have.
Sometimes they tell us stats. Sometimes they tell us stats.
Sometimes.
I have a feeling when they eventually adjust Shaman, and it's going to happen, because, hey, listen, we need to give credit where credit is due, because we've been hard on them. We've been hard on them on the rewards track. But you know where I have faith in them? I have faith in them in balance, because they've been doing a really good job of regularly updating the balance of this game.
And telling us why. They've done a much better job now, too, of saying, we're making this change and this is the reason. So what I was going to point to is, in terms of stats that we have with like highly involved players tracking their games over on HS Replay, is very much like Evolve Shaman's popularity is up there, and it gets higher at higher ranks, which I think shows that it's a more competitively viable deck. It's not just a super fun thing that everybody's playing. If it's something people are actively choosing at higher ranks on the ladder. So when we're approaching like 30% or more of games being played by one class playing one deck, that I think is problematic. So it's obviously competitive, but I don't think it's competitive because of high rolls. I think there's a whole lot of other things, Revolve being one of them, which, you know, like is going to have a shorter run of time in the meta because it's from our third expansion of a year. So it's got like a year and a few months of time that it will be competitively standard viable, but still it's going to be around for quite a while. So I think that card needs to be looked at. Technically, it has a downside in that it also impacts your opponent's board. But as a shaman, you can do a whole bunch of trades and then evolve your stuff when they have an empty board. So then you're not necessarily paying for the downside. You're still getting the upside. Not to mention that our current deck includes things like priest and our current meta includes things like priests and paladins. Priests really hate it when you put stuff in their res pool that they don't want to be there. Same with paladins. Paladins really hate it when you transform minions that they've put a lot of buffs into, which means that Revolve, even if you're going to a higher mana cost, you're probably screwing over your opponent by doing that, regardless of what minion pops out the other side. So the fact that it's a board-wide polymorph effect for such a cheap amount, and you're also playing into your own game plan, right? Because your stuff gets evolved too. So like it's a very, very, very strong card that's enabling this deck. And I think the fact that shamans just get to cheat mana basically on such a wide scale, like they just get to put stuff on the board and it just gets better and better and better and better and better. Like that's going to be a problem, even if it's not necessarily a high roll, because they're just like, oh man, that thing's not so great. I'm just going to evolve again and then hopefully get something better. So I think that there's quite a few issues with Evolve Shaman that just like not the high roll isn't the problem. It's the average roll, I think, is just too good.
Yeah, the high rolls part of it is there's just a lot of value. There's a lot of throughput. There's a lot of things you can look at. Like the attack value of Bogspine Knuckles is one that sticks out to me. Of like, I'm not playing this for 8 damage, but the 8 damage sure doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it can help you. Well, I mean, you can basically use Revolve and get rid of a taunt on the other side of the board, right? And then all of a sudden you've got this 4 damage that you're swinging through to face while also, you know, creating yourself a potentially bigger, better, stronger board. So I think that there's just like, there's a lot of pieces to this Evolve Shaman puzzle. And I think if we only focus on the crazy high rolls, which was the, whatever it was, like 19 damage in one turn, I think, based on getting chargers and then end of turn effects that deal damage to the other side. Like it was
literally
crazy,
Ross,
ridiculous high.
That it was Ross Frost Whisper. At the end of turn, deal 1 damage to all enemies, improved by spell damage. It was just, it's the 360 no scope of Hearthstone RNG.
It really, really was. I'm not denying that was a ridiculous result. It absolutely was, but not every Evolve Shaman game is going to play out like that. So I think focusing on the high roll is maybe not bringing the proper set of concerns to light.
Yeah. I'm still focusing on Bogspine too, because it's like, yes, a lot of the things, you know, we're going to be losing a lot of pieces of this deck come the reset. Desert Hare is going away. Flesh Shaper has been
that's been a problem for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's 9 mana base, but you're not paying 9 mana to play it, and it just pays dividends in an evolved deck. But you know what's not going away, Joss, is Dread Corsair, and I don't really think we need to nerf Dread Corsair. Which is really only empowered because of the high attack value of Bogspine Knuckles. So it's just I'm eyeing Bogspine Knuckles big time. Like I'm just laser focused on this card. Like I think you're gonna get whacked.
Whacked with the Nerf bat.
So it's interesting, but yeah, they gotta do something, right? It's the first week of January. We're still a ways out from the standard rotation and the next expansion.
Yeah, we are. And that's kind of the thing. And I think that's why a lot of people are starting to have those conversations, though I I think only a few weeks, maybe like a small number of weeks, less than 8 weeks away from the next mini expansion, right? And this is going to be our first mini expansion. And so we don't really know how impactful it's going to be and how targeted it's going to be. I'm really curious to know what their design philosophy is around this mid expansion. Is the mid expansion going to be made up of cards that are meant to like synergize with Darkmoon Faire and meant to, like basically planned out way in advance? Or is this set of 35 cards going to be like buffs and nerfs in a card package? Basically, like, are we going to end up with stuff that's meant to target and change the meta in ways that normally they would do with buffs and nerfs? Like, I'm curious to know what their thinking is behind the mini expansion, whether it's just more cards to create fun stuff to play with, or if it's going to be like 30 cards that are anti-aggro tools and then some weapon stuff. Like, like how targeted are we going to be with our 35 cards? And I think while we still don't have that information, it's really hard to say. So, but I mean, we're not that far out from an actual mix up to our card meta, right? So
yeah. I mean, who knows? Like you said, we haven't had one before. So the only thing we really have to compare it to are the old adventures, because it's around the same card number. Mm-hmm. And those mileage varied, but the same thing is true of expansions. Like we've how many times have we dunked on Rastakan's Rumble as essentially doing nothing to the game? Little reductive, editorializing it just a bit there, but it does card count is not necessarily indicative of impact.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I don't know what to expect come late January, early February when we do get the mini expansion, because like you say, it is the size of an adventure, but we've never had a card release like this quickly, right? Like expansions are months and months and months apart. And, we don't normally go, 8 weeks and then bam, more cards, and then another 8 weeks and bam, expansion, and 8 more weeks and bam, mini expansion. Like, this is going to be a really potentially interesting and crazy impact, or it could just be the Rastakan's Rumble of cards, right?
Yeah. Every expansion since Standard Year was a thing, which was started with Old Gods back in 2016, has happened in April. We've gotten the first expansion of the year every year in April since 2016. And so that's where it certainly seems like the next expansion will be coming. I could see this being the year that it maybe gets moved up because of BlizzConline, and also because of the fact that Darkmoon seemed to hit a little earlier than I would have expected, but not by a ton. I don't think we can expect it like first week of March. Enjoy the new expansion, Kobolds on Rollerblades, or whatever the next expansion ends up being.
Okay.
Weirder things have happened in Hearthstone.
That is true.
I'm still mad I didn't get my 80s ski movie version of Wrath of the Lich King. I wanted it.
That would have been something to behold.
Now I just want to sing Nightmare Before Christmas songs. But yeah. Who knows? We don't know. We haven't had a mini set. I'm sure it will have some impact. That's just like the thing where like, I'm as excited for the post mini set interviews as I am for the mini set itself, because I want to know where is their head at. How much did how flexible were they able to be with this set? How much did the current meta influence the current set? Because we've heard in the past that whenever they design sets, they tend to leave a few cards for like last minute kind of tech cards that are responding to the meta. Obviously, there's a lot fewer cards in the count here.
Yeah, there's a lot more room in a normal expansion than in a mini expansion for sure. But yeah, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to end up with the mini expansion in a few weeks and then another set of buffs and nerfs after that. Because like I said, I mean, you talked about, what's rotating, what's not. And I think the ones that aren't rotating, like it's kind of interesting because it's a little bit hard to talk about because obviously we don't know what all the minions are going to be that are coming in the next year. But the kind of like core tools that use those minions in the weapon and in the spell Revolve, like that's not actually going away. So then they have to be really, really careful with anything that they print that is Shaman or neutral, or if we go back to dual class or whatever, like they have to be really, really careful with what they're putting in the game so that Evolve Shaman doesn't just dominate for the next 12 months, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a great design space to be in. So,
but we've seen, again, we've lived through that with expansions before. Like, how many times have we looked at card reveals and go, well, X class, yeah, they didn't really get a power spike, but they're kind of eating everyone's lunch right now. So
yeah,
eat it, current dominating class. So I don't know. I could see all of that like influencing this mini set as well. So we'll have to see. But so to give a hard answer to the question we posed at the top of this, which is, does Evolve Shaman need a nerf? My answer is yes.
Maybe.
Okay, fair. Okay, I mean, if you take the mini set into account, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is just because there's so many unknowns right now in how the Hearthstone meta is going to play out. That's why I'm kind of in the maybe camp, just because I think depending on how impactful the mini set is or how impactful they think it's going to be, I think that's going to dictate what actually happens with Evolve Shaman. Because like I said, once we approach the 30% played mark, that's kind of a break point, it seems like, for the Hearthstone team. Like when 30% of players are playing the same deck, that they deem as a problem. So if their internal stats are reflecting what we're seeing in HS replay, which in general in the past they've been close, like plus or minus 1 or 2%, so that would still put them at high competitive levels, still in that 30% range. I think I do think that that's a problem, because you don't want a homogenized ladder, right? So if any deck ever hits that point, I think it absolutely becomes a candidate to be nerfed. I just don't know how impactful the rest of their plans for January and February are going to be on the meta and be on Evolve Shaman specifically. So maybe it doesn't need to be nerfed because changes are coming within the next couple of weeks anyways. So, I mean, if it does get nerfed, then I'm that makes me raise my eyebrow a little bit about the mini set. Like, did you not see this coming? Is the mini set not going to be impactful? Like, why are you nerfing right before card releases? But
well, again, it goes to like
remains to be seen.
How flexible were they able to be? Because they do work ahead on these things. You know, how much room did they leave themselves for flexibility? That makes all the sense in the world. Or maybe the mini set's a little further away than we think, and they're like, sorry.
That's true. Yeah,
because we've seen in the past them talk about class over representation, like too much of the Hearthstone gaming population playing the same archetype of the same class being a major factor in them wanting to be a little swifter with balance changes. And it sure seems from the stats available to us, thank you HS Replay, that Evolve Shaman is kind of hitting that point.
Mm-hmm. So. And I think that you're right about the weapon attack. I mean, if nothing else, it seems like it's just 2 attack. It doesn't change the effect of the weapon. It's 2 attack over 2 turns. But, you know, all of that little chip damage adds up eventually, especially when you're evolving and changing your minions all the time. So, you know, I think that making them a little bit less aggressive and just making them play a little bit slower might give other decks a chance to, like, because I mean, the counter to this is basically kill them before they do crazy big board stuff, right?
Yeah,
so
the only
be super hyper ultra aggressive.
Yeah, the only archetype that is favored well against Evolve Shaman is the recently nerfed aggro Demon Hunter.
Yeah, you just basically have to try to kill them before they get to do their craziness, right? So
yes, and Demon Hunter is apparently the only class that can do that with regularity.
Yeah.
There you have it. So also, there's our tip for the week. You sick of Evolve Shaman? Play Jocelyn's most hated
Demon
class.
Hunter.
Yes. Well, Jocelyn, how the turns have tabled. I love the idea. I love the thought of you like sitting there, like getting really frustrated, losing against Evolve Shaman, and Illidan darkens your doorway and just like, well. Look who comes crawling back.
And then I'm like, well, clearly I've gone insane because this is not a class in Hearthstone. So la 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 la. Yeah, no, I've been trying to make Druid work because I feel like that's so fun and crazy with all those crazy big bomb things and clown things, and it works, but it's so slow and everybody else is so fast, and I'm just sad. But yeah, no, I don't play Demon Hunter. I just lose to Evolve Shaman and cry. That's a better outcome for me than ever succumbing to Demon Hunter. It won't happen.
It's been a while since we've teamed up for some BGs. Let's take a break in there sometime. Next time you're a little burnt. Come join me in the Fiesta Bob hates me zone.
I mean, on that note, we should talk about some
We should talk about Battlegrounds because Ixar talked about Battlegrounds.
Have a good battle, friend.
Buying heroes in Battlegrounds is what the YouTube thumbnail should say if you're covering this. I did the job for you, YouTubers. There you go. Enjoy. This came about, again, via a Reddit post. Reddit user Rapideyed posted a change that they would like to see to the hero selection process in Battlegrounds. Essentially, this suggested that you could start the game with extra gold in hand, but which hero you decide to start with would dictate how much gold would be added to your hand. So in their example, George and Akazamzarak would give you 1 gold, while Crag would give you 2. Because they're, George and Akazamzarak a little bit better than Sky Captain Crag. Sorry, Crag, but facts are facts. What made this particularly interesting is that Ixar replied in this thread saying, quote, "Interesting. We're still planning to play with a variable health system where some heroes would just start with more health. This is kind of a variant on that." It's nothing like starting with more health.
Today is the day of Joss's raised eyebrows.
Ixar is never going to talk to us again.
I know.
Still love you, buddy.
I'm so sorry.
It's a variant on like balancing hero selection and in the hero pool. But like what I think is awesome is that Ixar like even said this. That's saying like, hey, we're planning to play around with variable health system. Like that's big news for Battlegrounds. If that's something that they're experimenting with.
I thought we already knew that.
Did we?
I thought that they had mentioned something about that back in like November.
I forget entirely if that's the case, which at the rate Hearthstone has been moving is very possible.
Like that's the thing. Like I cannot remember where I saw that, and it might not even have been Ixar. It might have just been like random person on the internet said they should do this. So maybe this is
we have
news,
definitely had emails and tweets and conversation on our Discord saying as much.
Yeah.
But the team has definitely been averse to that unless your name is Patchwork.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny that they only ever played with the health of one hero. But I mean, at the same time, that is like his hero's power, right? So, I mean, maybe he would have to get Hachikumo saying there's been a conversation in our Discord about variable health. Maybe that's where I saw it. I just assume that our Discord is so smart that clearly that is what the Hearthstone team is doing, because our Discord is ridiculously good.
I mean, if you're in the Discord, it means you're a patron, which means you are clearly way smarter than I will ever be.
So yeah, when it comes to variable health, I mean, I can kind of see the through line here where if you have a hero that has a different health pool than another hero, that then maybe potentially that allows you to do some things in the economy that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise do. Because basically what the Reddit user is saying is, hey, what if you got extra gold to do with as you will? Like, this isn't like you get 1 extra gold or like you start 1 turn ahead or anything like that. That's saying like the coin goes in your hand basically, and how many coins do you get in your hand based on which hero you choose, which then allows you to manipulate the economy at whatever point during the game you would like to. And so I can kind of see a through line there with like, if you had more health to play with, maybe you could do some kooky things, but I feel like just straight up gold put into the Battlegrounds economy is just like different than just being able to live longer or shorter, as the case may be.
Yeah, I think they're both interesting in and of their own right, because like, again, and we've talked about this before with Hearthstone, like any of the modes, like if they want to change a number, they have to change it by a full number. This isn't a MOBA. They don't get to do
0.5% damage buffs.
Yeah, that's not something they get to do. And so an economy bend, which is what the Reddit user Rapidide suggested, or the health bend, those are things where it seems like they can move the dial a little bit more than they can with things like hero powers.
Yes, probably. I mean, like when you think about health-wise, health seems to be the thing they can probably play with that is the most like granular, like making a change of, 5 health versus 2 or 3, or, like it feels like they could play with that a lot more than things like gold values or hero power values. Like that's where you start to get into a space of like, even just 1 gold change is going to make a really big difference. I mean, look how long it took them to figure Millhouse out, right? Like because of how much he screwed with the economy.
Yeah, and yet they, seem happy with where he's nestled.
He's good now, but it took them many iterations to get him to the point where he is good because he messes with the economy in multiple ways, right?
Yeah, I guess like what I'm leaning at is like I'm mildly concerned that like that would just not. Those aren't interesting changes. Like I'm not gonna get like hyped. Like 5 more health on Daryl. Woo! It's hard to get really excited about that, but like at the same time, I trust them. Like it's to me, if they next week they're like, hey, we are going to mess around with health, based on balance to try and shore up some of the lower win rate heroes. I'm into it. Like I think they're going to be able to leverage it well. That's going to be another tool in their tool belt.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you have a digital game. Don't constrict yourself. Like play with what you got to play with until it's fun.
Yeah, because you know which hero immediately comes to mind as being probably a million times better if they could consistently live just 1 more turn.
Is it Alexstrasza?
No. Alexstrasza is garbage, and anyone who wins got lucky.
She is not garbage. She's not garbage. She's perfection.
You're just lucky. It's okay. You're just lucky. It's okay. It's okay that you get lucky when you play Alexstrasza. Mr. Bigglesworth.
Giggity.
Wow. Jocelyn, circa 2006, coming in live.
Bringing it back.
With the Family Guy references. We are so current, you can't stand it.
I'm not old, you're old.
My birthday's in like 3 weeks, and I'm uncomfortable with the age that I'm turning. So yeah. Anyways, Bigglesworth, like just by fact of like how the hero power functions. If Mr. Bigglesworth could, on average, live 1 turn longer than Bigglesworth previously was, that's going to play a big role. And I'm not sure how many other heroes would be like this. Personally, I'm doing god awful on Daryl, which is the reason I brought him up. Daryl, I think, would really, it would be a lot better for him if he lived a little bit longer on average. But that will be the case for probably a lot of heroes.
Yeah, I feel actually the idea of Bigglesworth just on average living 1 turn longer. I don't know about that, dude. I feel like he would just, because that little kitty man, he just snowballs.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's send the cat.
Snowballs.
Send in the cats. Send them in. I want to do it because then I get to be a hipster that yells, I windmill slam picked Mr. Bigglesworth before it was cool.
Fair enough.
And there's nothing better in this world than feeling like a video game hipster.
I guess.
Of course, there will be outliers. Clearly, if we're giving more health to heroes based on how good they are, Alexstrasza is going to probably need 120 to 150 health, I think. Roll your eyes all you want.
If they gave her that much, I would just win more. Like, I am sure, keep giving her health. Why not? I like first place.
I'm going to sidebar here and explain to the audio listeners. Jocelyn just gave me the stinkiest eye roll, and I just want everyone to know, do you have any clue how many Discord DMs, tweet tags, emails, carrier pigeons I get anytime anyone gets a top 4 with an Alexstrasza at all? Hell, Friggin'
And you deserve it. One day we will convince you. You will come over to the cult.
I think Alex Strauss is legitimately my least favorite hero design. Like, I hate the hero on a deep, visceral level.
On a deep, visceral level.
After you upgrade Bob's Tavern to Tier 5, discover 2 random bullshits. And if you're Garrett, they're Tier 1. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Just don't be Garrett. What's the problem?
I will take solace in heroes like Jaraxxus and Zephyrus and Yogg-Saron and Reno having higher win rates on average than Alex Strauss.
That's fine.
I'll just pick
People
you,
just
Sarah.
don't know how to play her.
I'll pick you, Sarah. I'm hanging out with her like daily in Ardenweald, and I'm just gonna pick. If I want to get my dragon hero power on, I have my hero a pick.
Fair enough.
And we could also end this with different strokes for different folks. I'm stoked that you are super passionate about Alex, and if you ever stop giving me shit, I know something is terribly, terribly wrong.
Yeah, the day that I say Alex is bad, that's when you know something very, very bad is happening to me, and you should probably call the police.
You were offered 2 red whelps, because that's what happens to me. Congratulations. Anyways, yeah. So interesting. I'm excited to see it. I want to see some of these lower tier heroes shored up because I really enjoy playing a lot of them. And some of them, it's just like, I don't have a chance. Like, I love Bran. Getting double battle cries regularly is super fun, but he just stinks. It just doesn't work. But then there's like a hero like AFK where I'm like, I don't think more health is going to help AFK. I think it's time we look at maybe reverting some of the nerfs to her hero power. Especially now with like,
I think
tier. Well, when they made them both tier 3, that was already a buff at the time. But like, my God, tier 4 is such a wild, desolate wasteland of crap units that are only good if you're going a very specific build. That reverting to a tier 3 and a tier 4 minion wouldn't really be a buff. In my opinion.
There's a couple of things now that have changed, whether it's the minion comp within Battlegrounds and also just the other heroes that are available, that I think if you put her back to where she was when everything first launched, she'd be fine. Like, I don't think she'd be overpowered, not considering everything else that's happening right now in Battlegrounds. So I think those nerfs would be okay to be reverted. I think they really should look at a lot of things that they had in the first like 6 or 8 months of Battlegrounds and be like, hey, now that we're here with like dragons and pirates and elementals, it's a way different landscape than where we started. Plus with the larger hero pool, I think it would be worth going back and seeing if those things still stand up, and maybe if we can have our good old AFK back. Yep.
And maybe also look at Khadgar, the other name that shall not be spoken. Khadgar.
Yeah. So. He's fun but broken.
Yes. So, anyways, also Ixar mentioned that achievements popping up in Battlegrounds before combat resolves is getting fixed in a future build. So, hooray for that.
I'm glad, and I hope that whatever fix that they have that changes that for Battlegrounds, I hope they also apply it to other achievements, specifically pack openings, because the Darkmoon Fair pack opening was the most lackluster pack opening I've ever had in terms of like excitement feels, because it was like stuff would just pop up and be like, oh, I guess this pack is full of rogue cards. Well, there's a legendary in this pack. Like, like it took a lot of the excitement away, and maybe I'm just not used to getting excited about achievements versus the glow around the card, but I don't know. I really it happens 3 times a year. I love opening packs. And I know that some people are like, give me an open all pack button. And I'm like, no, but I like it. Seeing what the new animation is, seeing all my card backs. It's one of the only times my card backs are really put on display. Like, don't spoil it.
I like to meter any ignorance that I have about game design. I'd like to kind of keep that in check. I would say that that's probably linked to whatever is also causing achievements to pop early in Battlegrounds. I think that might be linked.
Yeah, the comments that I saw from Ixar, I think this was over on Twitter, but the comments that I saw from Ixar were basically saying that like they've struggled with knowing exactly when a good time for achievements to pop are, because it's like if you're trying to do a thing like play 5 battle cries in a turn or something, right? When you play your 5th battle cry, then it makes sense for that achievement to pop so that you know that it's registered and it's done. Huzzah, you did the thing you were trying to do. And that was tricky to balance alongside things like getting achievements in Battlegrounds. Like, when should that happen? Getting achievements in, because basically like your Battlegrounds combat result is registered before you see all the animations, right? So that's why the achievement is popping, because it's like, oh, you're dead. That was the big problem with the spoiler on the button when the mode first launched, right? Is whether it would flip to recruit or not would tell you like, oh, hey, I died. I don't get a recruit phase. So, you know, like it's those kind of things. Like since that event registers at that point in time, then it's kind of problematic for the team in terms of programming. So same thing with the packs, your like what's in your pack registers before you actually do the animations to flip over the cards, right? So I think you're right. I hope you're right that whatever fixes the Battlegrounds thing also fixes the pack thing before the next expansion comes or before the mini expansion comes. But yeah, I don't know. Right now it feels bad. And I understand that maybe it's tricky, but fix it, please.
It must be, because I think this would have been something they probably would have polished a while ago, but it's also not game breaking. It's just not the best.
It's not game breaking. It's experience breaking, right? So, I mean, the game still functions as it has always functioned. It's just, you know, changing players' feelings and perceptions of the game, which is also, I think, important, but not the same as like, hey, I played this card and then the game explodes.
It is not Micro Mummy.
Yes, exactly. Like the game still works. It's still playable. So managing your player experience then comes after having a functioning product.
Yeah. Anyways, shall we take a question and wrap this episode up?
Absolutely.
Hello.
Hello, it's me.
Hello.
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. If you are a patron, you can message us directly in our patron Discord. And Joel C. actually messaged us on Patreon, which is another thing you can do. So Joel wrote in and says, I took a 1.5 year break from Hearthstone. I am now 2 weeks deep in my return. Welcome back, Joel. And I am curious what I should spend money on first. I bought the $20 XP boost thing. That's exactly what.
Yeah, they're accurate.
That's what I call it too. Legitimately, I keep forgetting that they just repurposed the phrase Tavern Pass. And some packs, but I know I am way behind. I have 6K dust saved. That's a good amount of dust. Do I buy 20 to 30 packs of the last 3 card sets, or do I buy 60 of the newest set? I would like to stay under 150, but Hearthstone. Yes. Never a quick answer to these questions. So the bundles that they have been doing, is there one right now? I believe so. No. Yes, no.
I think I thought it was like a Christmas thing. I thought it was over, but
I think it is over. I think it just ended. But the Darkmoon Bundle that they had, which made everyone mad because we were all yelling about the Tavern Pass situation.
Tavern Pass, yeah. Technically, there is an Uther bundle. But that's a paladin.
That's not the same.
Yeah, that's not the same as all the packs. But there is technically a bundle right now.
That is still decent value if you want to build a paladin deck.
If you want to be paladin,
so I would maybe recommend you.
Which is not a bad choice right now, right? Paladin is in a pretty good place. So
yeah, and I think they're high likelihood to stay there. But there's no way to know for sure. So all of this is a risk. Like you could focus on a class and buy based on that, and the standard rotation could come and nip your class in the bud. But didn't say but this time. But that's kind of what I usually recommend doing. And we talked about this, I think, on the most recent episode, which is find an archetype or a deck that you're interested in. Like if your goal is to play to win, if you want to like figure out your own deck and explore, like I really can't help you. Like that is its own thing, and it's difficult to assign dollar values to target that, because the more cards you have, the better in that way. If you're an exploratory player that likes to come up with your own decks, obviously the more cards the better, so you're probably better off kind of doing scattershot and getting as many packs as you can. On the other hand, if you want to climb the ladder, if that is your goal, like do a little bit of research, look around, watch some streams, do some reading up on some archetypes. Obviously right now I would say go evolve Shaman, but it's probably going to get nerfed very, very soon. So keep that in mind as well. But that's where you can be the most choosy with your money, because then if you have an archetype that you like, you can then go and see which sets those cards come from, and that's where you can then go and target your pack buying.
Yeah, and try to target those cards. I mean, it's always going to be a little bit more like difficult, right? Because you might need one or two cards from a set. Like it's probably very likely going to come down to crafting, which is great that you have 6K dust saved, because I mean, that is one thing about the Hearthstone economy, even though the cost of crafting cards I think should be looked at, or the cost of disenchanting, either way. But like, I don't necessarily think that the dust economy is done correctly. I think it needs to be looked at. But that being said, the fact that dust is not expansion specific, the fact that you have 6K dust just from Hearthstone from when you played 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I think that is something that they have done right, in that regardless of what you played, regardless of what you disenchanted, you can craft the most recent cards, which I think is great and a really, really good thing. So you're going to already be able to craft like a mid-range cost deck, like anything that's going to be like, 5, 6, 7 legendaries, you're going to have trouble crafting. But if you are doing something that maybe plays with a couple of epics, maybe 1 or 2 legendaries and the rest are rares and commons, you can probably just go and craft it with that 6K dust. So I think, yeah, Garrett's right. Go and see what people are playing, what you think you might like to play. I think diversifying is probably the best bet. And I would say you also... I would say maybe Scholomance from this year would be the best bet. There were a lot of really good cards in there.
I find that so hard to kind of personally to recommend like one set generally. But yeah, Scholomance did have a really big impact. But
yeah, and it did have dual class cards. And then, I mean, if you're interested in Demon Hunter, I don't know why you're messaging this show, but if you are interested in Demon Hunter, then, I mean, obviously you should take a look at Ashes, right? Because
I think
where,
Ashes would be my pick too for Paladin. A lot of what makes...
because all the Libram stuff is in there.
Yeah, a lot of what makes pure Paladin go is out of Ashes. And so that's the kind of thing you can do. Not only we recommended this last time, and I think we did talk about this last episode, but HS Replay will show you the dust cost also of crafting archetypes.
I think most deck consolidation sites will show you that. I think Hearthstone does as well. I'm pretty sure Out of Cards does. Anywhere you can find a deck list, most of them at the bottom or top will say, hey, this is what it costs to craft this deck.
How I think I would approach this were I in your shoes, and I'm not, so I'm doing my best to put myself in your shoes, is I would probably look at the cards I have now, and then I'm assuming since you were gone for a while, you got a freebie deck, and see if you can make your freebie deck work for you with maybe some light crafting, and I would probably personally target what is the most efficient ladder worthy deck and wait until standard rotation.
I was going to say, I would stay away from stuff that came in 2019 because it will be rotating so soon. I would probably focus on the last, 9 months or so of Hearthstone, the kind of Ashes and more recent, because otherwise you're going to be potentially buying stuff that's going to rotate out. And Hachikumo in the chat room is saying Wild is fun. Wild definitely is fun, but if this is somebody who's taken a 1.5 year break from Hearthstone, then they're missing a pretty big chunk of cards, and standard will always be the smallest amount of cards that you need to compete. So
you might be surprised though. you could again go start looking at wild decks and maybe
and see what you've already got. Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like a while ago, I had a druid daily, and it was to play big minions. Quest.
So a druid daily.
It was to play big minions quest, and I was just like, I don't want to do this in standard. I'm gonna go to wild, and I was looking up like what lists have the biggest minions, and one of them was a druid deck that had almost nothing from the last year in it, and it worked great. I immediately won like 5 games in a row. It was fantastic, and I got to cast Ultimate Infestation and pretend like it was 2017. It was great. I actually don't remember what year Ultimate Infestation came out in, but whatever.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So you may be pleasantly surprised. They may have like super low games played, but they might still just grind out that tavern pass and get some gold and really like shore up a solid personal bank when the standard rotation happens. And the only reason is like we're relatively close. Like it's probably happening in April. And
if not sooner, like we said, right? Because of BlizzCon line.
Yeah, and
I don't know why I struggle so hard to say that.
Yeah, it's a great time to to really invest whatever you've saved up, because that's going to be the fewest card sets that are ever in standard at a given time. Is right after the standard rotation, because we're going to be down 2 sets than what we're at right now. Yes, a new one will be coming in, but again, if you're starting from scratch, that's probably how I would play it. I would probably just look at my holes. What do I have card wise? What free deck did I get? Is there a ladder climbing deck out there? Maybe I'm missing a couple cards. I'll invest a little bit of dust just to shore up weak points of this list, and I'm going to grind with that and kind of, build up my war chest until the standard rotation is probably what I would do. And I've had friends do that in the past. It's been a while. Funny enough, last time I remember working with a friend on this, it was when Aggro Pally was really big. Or no, it was Odd Pally. When Odd Pally was really big. And so he had most of the pieces, so we went and crafted Baku, and off to the races. It was great. And then they Hall of Famed it early, but by then it was a rotate. Yeah, it's probably what I would do. So anyways, but let us know what you go with, Joel. And what I was starting to say was, if they do another one of those bundles like that, the one that just ended for the holidays, is like as much crap as that bundle got, it was actually a good value, a really good value in terms of like paid Hearthstone. You got a lot of cards for your dollar. And so keep an eye out for those as well. Welcome Bundle's good value if you haven't done that. Now it's probably a good time to say we are not sponsored. I get nothing from you buying Hearthstone packs. So, yeah. But let us know what you go with, and keep us updated. And keep the emails coming, everybody. tacpodcast@gmail.com. I think it's going to bring us to the end of this episode. If you want to support the show, patrons out there, you want to become a patron, check out patreon.com/TAC. We are not a Blizzard podcast. We are not sponsored by Blizzard in any way, shape, or form, which is, why we get to be like...
I would think would be obvious by some of the comments I made today.
Yeah, it's why we get to tell you exactly what we think. We're not beholden to anything except, I like XR and would like him to not, yell at me the next time I see him. But yeah, go check it out. Patreon.com/JAC. Come join our patron only Discord and get some other perks. Huge thanks, by the way, to our producers, Declan H, Cheesy Bob, and Lord of the Cup. Thank you so much for your support. The whole back catalog of Angry Chicken episodes can be found at theangrychicken.com. Go there if you're doing some catch up. Our last episode was really fun. We took a big old Q&A episode. Lots of questions, cleared out the old mailbag, which means fill it up again. tacpodcast@gmail.com. Write us. And also listen to the other awesome content that Jocelyn makes. Joss, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joss Plays. That's JOCE Plays. And we've been covering a lot of the Shadowlands stuff over on For Azeroth. That's my WoW podcast. So go and check that out as well. We just finished talking about all of the stories in the 4 zones, and now we're going to start talking about covenants. And man, there's some really cool lore happening in Shadowlands right now.
Yes. Are you Night Fae? Because I'm Night Fae.
Yeah, I'm Night Fae because obvi there is no other choice. In fact, Warcraft has announced that they're not making any more expansions because they can never top Night Fae, so they're done. That's it. That's all there is.
The Covenant quest this week was, I believe the technical term is a loregasm.
Yes.
Yeah. It was solid. It was solid. I need a cigarette. Don't smoke, kids. I am Garrett Art on Twitter. You can follow me on there. amove.tv is where you can find not only this podcast, but every single other one that I produce. Talked a little bit about that Ardenweald quest on WoW Killer this morning. It's still not up now yet. Taliesin is streaming it, which means it takes me a very long time to get the VOD from him, which is part of my editing process. So that show's going to be on a 1-day delay probably. So, just be patient. It's coming up real soon. But yeah, everything else, amove.tv, go check it out. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Until next time, job's done.
Job's done.